Peter Schweizer is, or Schweizer, I always add a T to his name. Peter Schweizer is the author of Profiles in Corruption. He also wrote another book about corruption called Secret Empires. And we wanted to talk to him about witnesses in this trial. Peter, who should be called as a witness for the defense of Donald Trump?
Well, I think if you're interested in corruption, you need to call Hunter Biden. You need to call his business partner, Devin Archer, and I think you need to call Joe Biden, because the nexus of the question here is, was Donald Trump's request of the Ukrainian leader, Zelensky, legitimate? And I think it was. Democrats want to poo-poo it. They want to pretend nothing happened. But if the request is real and genuine, and I think the evidence indicates that it is, he was actually doing his responsibility, which was looking after billions of dollars in taxpayer money that disappeared by people who were paying the son of the vice president of the United States.
So, Peter, how reliable of a do you watch the show? What is it? It's not Billions. What is the show, Stu? With that's like
Succession?
Basically Secession. Mm-hmm. Have you seen Succession?
I have not, Glenn.
Okay, so it's an HBO show, and it's basically the Murdoch family, and it's fictionalized, and the Murdochs are what's the name of them in the
Roy?
The Roy family. The Roy family, totally corrupt. They'll have people offed, et cetera, et cetera. The son is just like Hunter Biden. He is a drug addict. He has all kinds of issues. He's always in trouble. But when he pulls his stuff together, he can put on a good show and become very believable and very credible. How sure are you that Hunter Biden is a guy that would crack and just wouldn't put on a sympathetic sort of performance and be able to shift everything the other way?
Well, look, I mean, you don't know, but what we know this is what we have on paper. And what we have on paper is very, very simple. And I think the questions you need to ask Hunter Biden are, what exactly were you being paid for? Why was it that you were hired by the Ukrainians literally within 3 weeks of your father being appointed point person for Ukraine policy? We have your bank statement here. We have it. We got it from a court trial involving Hunter Biden's business partner, Devin Archer, who was in charge with fraud in New York. We had a researcher actually attend that court case, talk to the prosecutors, got access to a 400-page J.P. Morgan financial document upon which it shows Hunter Biden taking out large amounts of cash out of this account. Flowing into that account, Glenn, you not only have $83,333 a month, which works out to $1 million a year, you also have money from Kazakh oligarchs. You have money from anonymous Swiss bank accounts. There's $1.2 million from an anonymous Swiss bank account. Where's that money coming from? Who's paying you? Why are they paying you? He can certainly try to create a sympathetic feel, but at the end of the day, you have to answer those questions. Those are deals that he got while his father was vice president, not before and not since. Okay. And I think if you walk the American people through that, it becomes very, very obvious about what's going on.
So tell me about the other oligarch, the money that is showing up, this mysterious money. Where is this oligarch? Who is he? Any idea on the Swiss bank account? What does that tie to?
Yeah, so there's oligarchs galore when it relates to Hunter Biden. In Ukraine, you have two of them, Zlochevsky, who is widely known to be connected with Burisma, and he's a former oil and gas minister in Ukraine who literally deeded himself and his company, Burisma, all these plots that made the company so wealthy. And highly corrupt. He's from the old Yanukovych government, the pro-Russian government. The other oligarch involved in Burisma, and a lot of Ukrainian anti-fraud groups believe that he is intimately involved in this as well, is a oligarch named Kolomoisky. Kolomoisky, here's the interesting part, the wrinkle. Put this in context, Glenn, of the phone conversation that Donald Trump had with Zelensky. Kolomoisky was the chief financial backer of Zelensky. Now, Zelensky claims that he is an anti-corruption candidate, and some of the witnesses in the House trial from the State Department and the embassy said, yeah, we think this guy's going to be a good anti-corruption guy. The problem is his chief financial backer, Kolomoisky, is neck deep in corruption. He was the head of Privat Bank, the largest bank in Ukraine, through which more than $1 billion, that's with a B, more than $1 billion in U.S. aid just literally disappeared. I mean, it melted through the ground of the bank and disappeared. So those are the individuals that are working with Hunter Biden and Burisma in Ukraine. Then you go to Kazakhstan. You've got a Kazakh oligarch who sends $145,000, puts it into this account. Again, it's all there on paper. And then that's money that Hunter Biden is taking out. This guy is named Rakashev, and he is the son-in-law of the former defense minister of Kazakhstan, a highly corrupt individual involved in all sorts of crony behavior in Kazakhstan elsewhere. And we actually have a picture, Glenn, which I'm glad to share with you, a picture of Hunter Biden with Rakashev, this oligarch. Also in the picture, Vice President Joe Biden. Clear evidence that these oligarchs were getting access to the Vice President of the United States and paying his son.
Okay, so wait a minute. He is the defense minister.
The son-in-law of the defense minister, yes.
The son-in-law of the defense minister. Okay.
Yes.
And how is he making his money?
Well, he is, as in Kazakhstan, a lot of it has to do with natural resources. It has to do with real estate. But Kazakhstan, again, when you look at groups like Transparency International, Ukraine and Kazakhstan are right down there at the bottom for corruption with countries like Nigeria. And he's been implicated in all kinds of issues related to human rights and abuse of power. The point is, Glenn, that I made over and over again is that, Hunter Biden's not doing deals in the United Kingdom. He's not flying to Japan and saying, oh, I want to work with a high-tech startup. He's working with oligarchs that are connected politically in these countries, these highly corrupt countries. And he's getting paid ostensibly for things that he has absolutely zero expertise in.
So that's not illegal.
Correct.
It's not illegal. Correct. It is unethical, and the vice president had been warned about this by the State Department, that it is unethical on what he is doing. In my opinion, it should be illegal, but it's not. So when you get Hunter Biden up on the stand and you say, so you were taking money from these people and you don't really have any, you don't have any knowledge of, you can't even speak the language. What is it you're doing for $1 million a year? Why can't he just say, well, because they wanted to show that this company showed that they were had American power behind them, American elites behind them, and I'm sure they did just hire me because of my name, but I didn't do anything with my dad.
Well, and that's why you want to have Devin Archer, his business partner, and also Vice President Joe Biden testify as well. And here's the key thing. I mean, we can say completely, based on the facts and the evidence at hand, that Joe Biden has lied about his knowledge of what his son was doing. He has made a blanket statement that's been often repeated that he has had no conversations with his sons or any family members on their commercial business activities. And that's flat out a lie. Hunter Biden himself says he talked to his father about it. 2 days before it was announced that Hunter Biden was joining the board of Burisma, we know based on White House visitors logs that his business partner, Devin Archer, was meeting with the vice president in the White House. It's the only meeting he had the entire time, according to White House visitors records. So this notion that he didn't know anything about it, he had no involvement, is a flat out lie. So I think you begin with that premise. Why are you lying, or why are you not being honest about the fact that you were aware of what your son was doing? But this is why you also need to get into, I think, getting access to documents like transcripts of phone calls. I mean, we have the Trump-Zelensky transcript of their phone call. We should have access to phone call conversations of Joe Biden's conversations with Ukrainian officials. Because, look, this is all kind of a stew. Remember, Joe Biden gets appointed in March of 2014 to be point person on Ukraine. Within 3 weeks, his son is suddenly on the Ukrainian payroll. Burisma is looking to participate in USAID and other aid programs, energy infrastructure projects with the United States. The officials involved with Burisma have other business interests that are involved, and Joe Biden is the one vote that matters in determining where aid dollars are going to flow, and that's what I think you have to focus on. The challenge is right now we have access to Donald Trump's telephone call with Zelensky and what they talked about. We don't have access to emails, telephone conversations, any correspondence that Joe Biden had either with his son or with Ukrainian officials. And I think that is important and essential if we're going to have a balanced discussion about this issue.
But we do know that we have money and we have transcripts and actual letters from members of the State Department to the hierarchy of the Anti-Corruption Bureau, if you will, saying there's no reason to look into Hunter Biden. There's no reason to look into this 501c3 or this NGO. We know there's missing money. We're perfectly comfortable where that money, what happened to that money. So,
yeah, it is so bizarre to me as to why there is a lack of curiosity by some people as to where all this money has gone, and it's a common thing you get in the developing world, whether it's Ukraine or other developing world countries. We get very comfortable in dealing with them and accepting the fact that money is disappearing. And part of the reason, may be that, look, this person's corrupt, but they're at least our ally. But you have an added layer when you've got family members on the payroll of the American official, in this case, Joe Biden, who is supposed to be looking into that. And I think anywhere outside of Washington, D.C., people look at this and say, this does not pass the smell test. And it is entirely legitimate in Donald Trump's phone call with Zelensky to say, look, I'm just asking you to cooperate with my attorney general and share with us information you have. He's not asking him to make up information. He's asking him to share information.
So Peter Schweizer is with us. He has a new book out that is an absolute must-read. If you care about corruption, if you just want to preserve the truth about what is happening in our country right now for your children and they can understand the real history of their country, you need this in your library. It's Profiles in Corruption. Peter is a journalist. He's not just one side or the other. His last book, Secret Empires, took on the Republicans as well, which brings me to this. Peter, why are so many people, including Mitch McConnell, seemingly not interested in any of this corruption with Biden?
Well, Glenn, what's the old saying? People, in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. The Capitol building, honestly, is a large glass house. It's not to say that there aren't good, honest people up there on both sides of the aisle. There are. But a lot of them are engaged in behavior that maybe not as egregious as Biden's, is similar, and they don't want to go there. I mean, in my last book, Secret Empires, I talked about Mitch McConnell and the fact that his family got these, I would argue, sweetheart deals with the Chinese government. In previous books, Senator Blunt of Missouri, I talked about the fact that 3 of his family members at various times have been registered lobbyists. It's a very common way to get paid as a member of Congress without actually getting paid.
But nothing.
You basically set.
Nothing is as egregious as the Bidens?
Correct. In terms of size and scope. And what do I mean by that? Well, first of all, size. There are 5 Biden family members that I talk about in Profiles in Corruption that have cashed in while Joe was vice president. Hunter Biden is one of them. The others, to various degrees, they either did international deals, they did deals in the United States, they got help launching businesses literally in the Obama Oval Office, all courtesy of Joe Biden. So that's the size of it. And the scope of it is the fact that the Bidens are unconstrained by borders. You know, we're used to hearing about, like, okay, you know, you've got a ne'er-do-well kid, you're a member of Congress, they get hired by a lobbying firm, it's basically a no-show job. That's problematic enough. Hunter Biden, you're talking about deals with the Chinese government, Ukraine, around the world.
We're going to go there next. Peter Schweizer is a great journalist and author. His latest book is Profiles in Corruption, where he takes a look at all of the Democratic candidates and shows right where they are dirty. They're taking kickbacks, money, enriching their families. But he just told us a minute ago, there is no one, left or right, Republicans or Democrats, that are in the same category as Joe Biden. That's saying something.
Yeah, we got to put a spotlight on that for a second. I mean, Peter has to put this in perspective, and Peter will not speak nicely about himself in this way, but Peter is responsible for, I mean, massive changes in the law in the United States when it comes to insider trading with Congress. I mean, we have seen all sorts of corruption, Peter, that you have uncovered, and I keep coming back to this.
And you've changed laws because of it. It's not like you're just throwing things out and it goes nowhere. You've changed laws,
and it's been, you know, it's also stuff that's not just coming from the right. It's mainstream media that has seen this reporting and reported on it. The fact that you keep saying that Joe Biden is the biggest example of this you've ever uncovered is remarkable. How can that possibly be true?
Yeah, it's true because it involves so many members of his family. I mean, look, you find instances where somebody, a politician, Republican or Democrat themselves, is on the take, or maybe they're juicing in their wife or one of their kids. The most I think I've ever seen is 2 or 3 family members who got juiced in on corrupt crony deals. With the Bidens, it's 5. It's the son Hunter, who's done all these international deals. It's his brother James, who, quite literally, James Biden, to tell the story very quickly, a friend of the family named Kevin Justice goes to the Biden-Obama White House and has a meeting in November of 2010. He's just set up a construction company called Hillstone International, meets with somebody in Vice President Biden's office, the only meeting he ever has in the White House. Don't know what they discussed, but 3 weeks after that meeting, James Biden becomes the executive vice president of this new construction company, despite the fact that he has no background in construction. Within 6 months, this new construction company lands a contract to build 100,000 homes in Iraq. The contract is worth $1.5 billion. Now, how does that happen? How does that happen? Then you've got Frank Biden, his other brother, who's doing deals in Costa Rica and Jamaica. He's in the energy business. He gets in the energy business once his brother becomes vice president. He has no background in energy, but yet he's involved in these deals and these projects involving taxpayer-backed loans to build these energy projects. Then you move on to Valerie, his sister, who ran his campaigns but also took $2.5 million at least and channeled it into her own consulting firm, where she was only one of 2 partners in that firm. Then you've got the son-in-law who's starting a new business, one of 3 principals. Joe Biden ushers the executives of this company into the Oval Office. They meet with Barack Obama. Over the next 5 years, Joe Biden goes and briefs the investors and partners in this private investment firm as vice president of the United States, and the firm is run by his daughter's husband. I mean, I don't know anybody that has had this large of a collection of corrupt behavior.
So is Joe Biden, is he personally profiting off of this, or just he's setting his children up?
Well, it's always hard to know. I mean, what I found interesting was Joe Biden left the vice presidency essentially broke, and almost immediately he's worth $9 million. That was pretty fast. And look, I've been in the book.
Wait. He left the Oval, or he left the vice president's mansion broke?
Correct. Basically broke. With very little in the form of assets, and then almost immediately he was worth $9 million.
How'd that happen? And how can we do that?
Exactly right. Right, but also, Glenn. I mean, it's the other thing is money is fungible. Okay, if you set your son up, or we know, for example, that one of his brothers owned a very beautiful beach house down in Florida. Joe Biden would visit there when he was vice president. So he didn't necessarily own the house, but he got to enjoy the house. This is the brother who was the vice president of the construction firm, despite having no background in construction. So it's fungible. But look, if you look at international bribery laws, they're very, very clear, Glenn. If you're a political figure, whether you're getting directly paid or a friend or a family member is getting paid, it makes no difference. It's still corruption. So we shouldn't let him get away to say, well, yeah, okay, he helped his kid get rich doing stuff he didn't deserve to get, but that's okay because he didn't make a dime. As far as international bribery and corruption standards are concerned, that makes no difference.
In the HBO series, they have the Roy family, and it's clear the father just doesn't care about his children at all. I think Joe Biden cares about Hunter. But this one compared to the other children, Hunter is directly involved in political things. For instance, you get a consulting and blah blah blah, or he comes to speak at your shareholder meeting. That helps you, but it's not necessarily involved in any kind of policy wrangling or anything like that. It doesn't seem. When it comes to Hunter, he's involved in China in very bad ways about them gaining military technology with Burisma. I think there's more to this than just money going to Hunter Biden. I think there is State Department things going on. We know that Soros is getting some of this money, and it's all part of a State Department plan. How is Joe setting his son up, for success, or is he getting him involved because he's kind of weak and is willing to do these things? Do you think Hunter knows? And does Joe look at this as a tool, not a son? Yeah. No, I think definitely Joe knows what's going on. And Joe also knows that when his son flies over with him on Air Force Two, I talked about this in Secret Empires, flies over on Air Force Two, with his dad. His dad meets with all these top Chinese officials, gets criticized by the Washington Post and others for not really challenging the Chinese on anything. And then within 10 days, Hunter Biden finalizes this deal, this private equity deal of $1.5 billion. And again, the Bidens lied about this. They first said, no, he wasn't involved with the investment firm. He was an advisor. Then we showed the documents. I shared them with you, Glenn, that no, he was actually on the board of directors. Then he stepped down from the board of directors, but he still has an equity stake. And the problem is, Glenn, that this isn't just like some financial deal, where they're buying, shoe companies. This firm that Hunter Biden is involved in was acquiring companies in the West that had very sensitive dual-use technologies, dual-use in that they had military application as well as civilian application. And this has been a priority for China for a long time. This firm that Hunter Biden's on the board of directors of and has an equity stake ends up buying Henniges, which is a precision tool manufacturer in Michigan that produces anti-vibration technologies that have military benefit. Another company they're involved in is CGN, which is a Chinese nuclear company, which after 10 months after Hunter Biden's firm makes the investment,
they get charged by the FBI, CGN does, with trying to steal our nuclear secrets.
And they don't, and he doesn't leave that company. He doesn't sell it, doesn't leave it. So, Peter, let me ask you this question. Do you think that Joe Biden, this is all being done with a wink and a nod, or is this just a smart adversary, if you will, sitting down and, Hunter Biden's firm reaches out while dad is there and the Chinese are like, oh, I see the game we're playing? Or do you think there is some sort of quid pro quo where I want you to do this, I want you to help my son here? And if you would help my son, it would be great if, you would do that, and it might make me more charitable to do this. Do you think there's that kind of arrangement?
It's a great question, Glenn. It's very hard to know, but when you look at the timing, it's very clear, that Hunter Biden did not make any overtures to the Chinese until his father was vice president. Once he became vice president, he suddenly started going to China, and lo and behold, he had meetings with the financial titans in China. I mean, the equivalent of the head of Goldman Sachs, Bank of America, Deutsche Bank, J.P. Morgan, all at the same time were meeting with the vice president's son. So clearly there was an initiative on the part of the Bidens to reach out to the Chinese, and then this deal gets secured. The other point I would make that we know, Glenn, is that Joe Biden and Hunter Biden are very close. They talk about the fact that they're a close family, that they communicate all the time, that Hunter would, traveled with his dad all the time on the campaign trail, was a surrogate for him. His dad helped him become a member of the board of directors of Amtrak, even though the only qualification that Hunter Biden has is he had ridden Amtrak. So, yes, very, very clearly, Joe Biden has been there sort of boosting and helping his son along. And it's also very clear that the Bidens pursued the Chinese, and the Chinese were very happy to secure that deal. A deal, by the way, as we've talked about, Glenn, that's unique, that nobody else had. Hunter Biden had it. Goldman Sachs didn't have it. Bank of America, Deutsche Bank, no major Wall Street investment firm had the deal that the vice president's son had.
Peter Schweizer, the name of the book is Profiles in Corruption. It's a must-read because it's not just about the Bidens. It's about every candidate on the stage of the Democrats. You will read things that will shock and horrify you, but I also think that you need to preserve this history because right now it's very unpopular to tell the truth. And Peter, once again, it's Profiles in Corruption. Peter, thank you so much.
Thanks, Glenn.
You really have to be grateful for people like Peter Schweizer and what's his other name? The
John Solomon?
Yeah, John Solomon. Mm-hmm. I mean, these guys are doing the job that no one else will do, and they are getting beaten up. Mm-hmm. I mean, Peter is a guy. He used to be a consultant to NBC News. He was a member of the Ultra-Terrorism Study Group at the U.S. government's Sandia National Laboratories. He's a guy who went to Oxford as his BA from George Washington University. This is a serious guy and he's not a political hack, but as soon as he took on the Clintons and as soon as he took on Joe Biden, he's a political hack. He's taken on the right as well. He's a journalist. He's a guy who looks to find the truth. And the same thing with John Solomon. John Solomon his career is over. It's over. Unless you support these guys. And it's amazing because the left has a safety net. You can be discredited. You can do anything. And you'll find a job. They'll find a place. As long as you're on the team, they'll find a place for you and you can rebuild your life. With those of us on the right, there's nothing. Without you, there's nothing.
Sometimes when you make a huge mistake, even on the left, you're able to they'll find you some job, like for example, governor of Virginia or prime minister of Canada. One of those, like just some job. They'll get you into something where you can survive a major scandal. every once in a while, it works out for you if you're on the left. For some reason, on the right, it doesn't seem to go that way.
And then with the governor of Virginia, then they'll even make it harder for the people to remove you from office.
Yeah.
I mean, it's nuts. The safety net these people have, and they just wash them clean, and then they run them through the university so they get some sort of teaching experience. Well, now he's on the faculty of Princeton.
Yeah.
Oh.
Probably a good time to remind people to subscribe to blazetv.com/Glenn if you have the means and feel like this is a worthwhile cause. Promo code Glenn will save you $10 on that. But I mean, to have a place to protect people that are trying to investigate these things, because you see what happens with these major digital platforms, YouTube and all the stuff that's going on there with people being deplatformed from social media. You have to have a place to protect this, or
right.
No one will be doing it. No one. Because you'll either have the people who are doing it have no place to get the information out, and the people who would like to do it are terrified because they'll get destroyed if they try.
We sure would like to have your help in building this. We have some exciting things on the horizon at Blaze TV, but man, really, what else can we do to bring the voices together? We have Mark Levin, we have Steven Crowder, we have Dave Rubin. We're about to make an announcement of somebody just absolutely incredible that I think you're going to love. We have this program. We have Stu's new show that starts next week. We have Pat Gray. We have Chad Prather. I mean, you name it, we have it. And we are thrilled at your support. Please, if you haven't supported us yet, join us. blazetv.com/Glenn.